This vlog is about cptsd triggering event that I had with my mom, where she screamed at the top of her lungs, and it triggered my cptsd, which I got from her and from the chaotic house environment I grew up in. And I'm going to talk about what happened since then. So the event itself was a couple days ago. Me and my mom she's staying with me because she's homeless. She has nowhere else to go. And so I have a place and I let her stay here. And it's not under the best circumstances, let's just put it that way. But things are going fairly good, and we go for a walk. She makes dinner. I mean, I appreciate it, but I also don't really fully want her to be cooking, because it's I don't know, it just, the circumstances are not correct, you know what I mean? And she doesn't acknowledge it very much. But I still appreciate it, of course. And then after dinner we go for a walk, and she says how she really likes going for a walk, and she was gone for a little bit, and she was saying that she really missed going for walks. And it's yeah, I know, it's nice. Going for a walk is nice, and especially when you go with somebody. But the thing is that our relationship is not that great, just because she gave me cptsd. There was so much chaos growing up, and it's really difficult in that way. And then so we're walking along the riverbank, and it's nighttime, and it was my idea because the river's low, and so the riverbank is muddy, but it's frozen over on the top layer because it's cold enough outside so that you can walk on it. And so we're walking on it, and we have flashlights, and she's saying how she likes it so much. And then I broke through the top layer of frozen mud, and my feet sank in. They sank in about 1.5 feet. And she started screaming at the top of her lungs as loud as possible, ah! I'm not gonna do the full scream, but it was if you can imagine a woman screaming at the top of their lungs, that's what it sounded like. And this just bloody murder pierced through the night, and it was right next to me, and it totally triggered my cptsd, because that's what she used to do all the time when I was growing up, was have freakouts, scream. It was totally unpredictable. There was fighting constantly in our house. It's totally just untreated trauma. She used to get beat up by my dad, and then he was gone, and then basically it's just undealt with, untreated trauma, and probably a lot of other issues too. She says she has she thinks she just has spiritual issues, and so yeah, but she's 67, and I think that within the last 15 years or 20 years, but the last 10 years especially, there's been just a deluge, an absolute flood of information online and in books and everything, and everybody's learning about trauma, and that's become, especially in the Western world, a Western civilization, people are always talking about trauma. And Bessel van der Kolk really opened the gates, or popularized the body keeping the score, that the trauma's in the body, and that. And so I think she doesn't really, a lot of older generation don't really understand this. And then a lot of foreign people, let's say people from other cultures, other countries, they basically disregard trauma a lot, and maybe they're catching up, but and then the pendulum swings too far, especially in the West, where people get sucked into the whole trauma talk permanently, or the weight is so much on it, and it's just like it gets to be way too much. It's like suicidal empathy and just getting buried in trauma and healing and all this, and like caught in cycles, and then like life coaching and a bajillion therapists and 400 different types of therapy. I'm not making that up. There are over 400 different types of therapy if you look up on Psychology Today or whatever. And it just gets to be so insane. But it's a really painful thing though at the same time. So that's why it gets a lot of coverage. But at the same time, there's also other things that happen in the world too. So not everything's just like, I don't know, you can't just focus entirely on trauma all the time. But my point is though that this is what happened, so I'm just trying to be like factual about it. So really triggered my cptsd. And so like for me, that's like I get dizzy, I get tearful, I get angry, I get afraid. I'm not even sure if they're involuntary, but I get what I think might be kind of like involuntary movements, and it's just like my fists will clench, or like my face, like I'll move my face to the side, but it's like more like I'm fighting my body, or something is fighting the feelings, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like my body doesn't want to break down and start crying, because I've been, that's never worked for me in the past, even though that's what's normal, that's what's healthy, that's how the nervous system processes a lot of this stuff, is through tears, and then I don't know, a lot of stuff like that. But it's hard to do it by yourself. Like you kind of need to feel safe and all that. Like a lot of it goes back to childhood, so that's why they say CPTSD, like complex PTSD. They also call it childhood PTSD. There's a whole book by Pete Walker on complex PTSD that's really good. It goes all into it. But anyway, things are confusing for me too. Like it's like I can't even think straight. I can't make decisions well. I'm really worried about how other people perceive me too. So it's really tough. And also one thing that happened was that it's like my brain flooded with like I guess like feel good chemicals. I'm not sure which one. Your brain, if there's something you can't escape, the brain's last resort is to actually just flood with a hormone or a neurotransmitter. I forget which one. Maybe it's dopamine, maybe it's oxytocin, maybe it's norepinephrine, but it's one that will basically be like a sedative, almost like an opioid, and it just will make you feel relaxed. And that's like the brain's last resort when things are way too much for the nervous system. And it does this also in the animal kingdom too, but it's like a nervous system response. So I felt that as well, and it was like I was like just feeling like really sleepy. But at the same time, I have to point out that it's always like part of my brain never wants to relax. You know what I'm saying? Like it's really hard for my entire brain to relax. So So since then, so that happened like 2 days ago, and then I said to my mom at the time, I was like, why did you scream so loud? And she says, I can't help it. And I said, that's the problem. And at this point I was already like triggered. And then so I pulled my feet out of the mud immediately. My feet were muddy, okay, whatever. It's like not that huge of a deal. And there was but I understand she's got her own trauma and all that, so that's probably why. But she says she can't help it. But that's the problem precisely, because it's unpredictable. So there was somebody up on the bridge nearby who was like yelling and started running. So it was like embarrassing at the same time as well, because it's like she screams bloody murder in the middle in the night, and it's like, I do not want to deal with all of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's too much. Like, I don't want to deal with all that. Like police or anything, if they were to come, or people, and then you have to explain it, and it's like really hard to explain, and then at the same time I'm like, triggered. I don't even like that word triggered, because it got made fun of so much when I was growing up, but it's like kind of the truth about it. It's like triggers like your nervous system response. And then so I just like left. So first I was angry like briefly, and then I left, so it was like flight. But then I was like sort of like tearing up, and like my breath is like shallow, and I'm also kind of like tunnel vision. But I was walking home, and then I went home and I like got cleaned up, and basically I just wanted to like try and like stabilize essentially. And then my mom comes back here to my house, because she's staying here. She comes back home, and then I didn't want to talk to her, so I didn't talk to her. And then the next morning, I just like, I don't know, it's like a feeling of like anger and not feeling safe, because like it's my house, and then but like I have to deal with it at the same time, because she's not really gonna say anything, or she's not like capable to deal with it, I guess, and that's the whole problem. And so I knock on her door, and I say good morning, but I say like, that was inappropriate, like that scream. And she tried talking, but I said, just let me finish. And I said like, I know you can't deal with it, but that's the problem. And I said, it's like, it re-triggers my ctpsd, which you gave me. And I mean, I even feel bad just like saying that, but it's like, that's the truth. And I really have a hard time saying things that are true, that will, I guess, hurt other people's feelings. And I suppose that's what they call like a fawning response. Fawning, where you try to be non-conflictual, not cause conflict, not cause aggression, and not say anything that will disagree with people. So I guess that is what that is. But anyways, I told her like, it's like living with a monster. And I wasn't trying to be really mean, but that's really what it is, because what it's like, because I can't predict, like, and it's so hard too. And also I get advice from people sometimes, and I've had this advice in the past, but I don't even know if this advice is healthy. People say like, you have to cut off your family, you have to cut them out, you have to like I went to the doctor, and he said like, your mom should, I think you, is there anywhere else you can go? I'm like, man, this guy, he like talks to me for like less than 10 minutes, and he's saying like, is there anywhere else you can go? He's like a black doctor, but he's just like, I feel like he's just following instructions the entire time, like these like safety instructions and liability instructions all the time, because he's trying to like give me pills constantly, and I'm always telling him no. It's like, I've been on all the pills, okay? But he's like, is there anywhere else you can go? I'm like, not really. And he's like, but man, it gets confusing to talk about all this stuff. But anyway, so I told her, like, it's like living with a monster. And I'm not really trying to, like, be especially mean. Like, that's the hard thing, is I'm not trying to be, like, super mean. But acknowledging reality, it's like you can't do it. It's like how are you supposed to acknowledge reality when people's feelings are in the way constantly? Constantly. And you have to be, like, placating and people pleasing and all this stuff all the time. It's like, I can't do that all the time. I've done that for years. It's retarded. It's like people never really, like, even if you're nice, people don't really even give a fuck about what's true. Like, they don't give a fuck. If you're nice and you say the nice part and you think that they're gonna they're gonna understand and logically conclude the rest of it, they don't. They're just, like, in survival mode constantly, or like in, like, I don't know. I don't really like to say the word la la land, but it is kind of like a state of delusion somewhat, because I think people are in different realities. Like, that's what I kind of, that's the best metaphor I could put to it. But I said after that, I said, like, you know, I said, I know you say you can't help it, but I pray for you to heal. I pray for me to heal. I pray for the family to heal. And it's like, that's all I could really, like, that's, like, the most I could do, because I can't, like, continually overextend myself and just be, like, gushing with, I don't even think that's love, but, like, gushing with compassion and gushing with, like, what they say, like, kindness and, like, everything, like, constantly, because that's just, like, people just take that as an enabling thing, and they just work you into their traumatic life, and they just, like, treat you like a pawn. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you just if you say, you just, they just, like, label you as your identity, and then they just treat you like a pawn. Like, you're like, oh, I know that this person is gonna always have something nice to say, so I'm gonna go to them constantly. And so it's like, you become, like, yeah, you just become a part of their whatever is going on that they don't want to deal with. And that's really tough. So I said, like, I pray for you to heal. I pray for me to heal. I pray for the family to heal. Because really, God is the only one who can facilitate, I think, changes of consciousness when people are really stuck and people are really deluded. And maybe it's a spiritual issue. I don't know for sure. Maybe, possibly it is. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I say people need to pray. Like, I tell her, you need to pray. And she says she does pray. But, but anyways, I still triggered. And it's like, I know. It's like, I know that now I need to, because this happened, now I need to be, like, I need to, you know, continue to deal with this. And it's hard. I'm kind of laughing, because it's like, this is freaking hard. And just the acknowledgement thereof kind of is, like, funny in a way. I don't know why. But anyway, so I have a therapist who said I could text them. So I texted my therapist, and it was just mainly the good thing, or the important thing I'm trying to do is just to say something. Because a lot of times in the past, like, there's this thing about internalizing versus externalizing in psychology. If you're an internalizer, that means you shove everything inside and you try and deal with it internally. Externalizers, they feel emotions, they want to get them out, they want to express them, make them external. Internalizers, they feel emotions or something happens, and then they try and push it inside. And that's, I believe that's not that healthy. Like, honestly, I don't think that's that healthy. I understand it's a strategy. I understand people have maybe a proclivity toward one or the other. Maybe based on genetics, probably more based on behavior. That is nurture. But I'm trying to not just internalize, because that doesn't actually really help. It makes you really neurotic. It makes things really difficult. So anyways, I told my therapist, and she was she was good about it, but she was like asking questions. I just texted her, and I answered, but I said, like, I really don't want to talk, because it's very hard for me to talk in a state like that, because like I don't want to make things worse and everything, you know what I mean? And also I'm afraid of people. And then after that, the next day was Sunday, so I really wanted to. So anyways, I pray as well, and then I wanted to go to a new church because I've been studying Orthodoxy, or learning about it. And so I wanted to go to an Orthodox church. And it was kind of hard. Like, I probably wouldn't have done this unless I had God's strength with me, unless God gave me strength, because I did go, but it was tough. Like, I opened the door and there was a greeter there right away, and he was like too friendly. I feel weird saying that, but I know it's his job to stand there and be a greeter and be friendly, and it's part of church teaching to greet new members, and I think that's a good thing. But personally, it's hard when I was like so triggered. I just wanted to go to the mass. I did not want to have any one-on-one or even any group conversation. And then there's like other people standing there, and he's like introducing me. Like, I'm just trying to say hello and like go inside. But yeah, so I guess I met a few people. I only remember like one or two of the names, but yeah, anyways. And also another thing is that I feel like I put people off, or I'm weird, or like, I don't know if weird is even the correct word, but it's just like, I feel like other people can sense, and honestly, people can sense, you know what I mean? Like, nobody really wants to say it in a definitive sense, because it's hard to actually put it into definitive terms, but people say about a vibe. They can pick up on a vibe that somebody has, or that they just like someone just cause, or like whatever. I think a lot of it is got to do with vibe, and like where your nervous system is, and you know, it's like, what do they say, 93% of communication is body language. I think a lot of that is probably true. So anyways, I didn't want to like get into anything, so anyways, I just went into the mass, and the mass was really good. Orthodox mass, they sing. There's no instruments, I believe, allowed in most Orthodox mass, because they want you to sing, and so the people actually really do sing. And I think there's like a balcony choir behind, and the church is really beautiful. It was really full as well, and the mass was good, I thought. I noticed that it was like, it felt like it did feel holy. Yeah, it felt holy. And they sang, and I tried to sing along to the things where I knew the words. Things like the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven. Like, they sang it, and I'm not really great at singing, but I recognize that singing and music, it's really good because it's a vibrational thing. And so it helped actually calm me down. And I did feel a little bit nervous and anxious during the mass, especially during the part where the people are supposed to go up to receive communion. Now, I wasn't going to go up because I'm not, I think the correct term is catechized into the Orthodox faith yet. Catechism means like teaching, it's like the church teachings. And there's a process to it. But I haven't started that yet. And there was people in the pew next to me, specifically there was one guy, a younger guy. And I couldn't tell if this guy wanted to go out to receive communion or not. And I didn't want to say anything, but he could say something, right? And then I would move, but he didn't say anything, but he was kind of like shifting in his head a bit. So anyways, I was like, I don't know. I can't even hardly deal with anything when I'm too much like in a heightened nervous system state. And then the other thing was that they do collection, and normally when they do collection, they bring a basket and they put it to each pew, each row, or at least nearby. Not to the point where they're jabbing people saying, here, cough it up. They just put it like close by, and usually people will indicate that they're going to put something in. A tithe. And the guy didn't come to my pew, so I kind of had to like, I don't know if beckon is the right word, but indicate to him, like, come back. And I put the money in there, but I guess I didn't do it properly because I was supposed to put it in an envelope. And the reason for that is that you put it in an envelope because you don't actually really want to show off what you're giving. And the reason for that is biblical. I can't remember the exact verse, but I'll paraphrase. It's like, if you make a big deal about what you're giving, then you've already received your reward. So you really do it in secret. And the church also teaches it's supposed to be like 10% of your income. Well, your income can vary, obviously. But like if you make a big deal about what you're putting in, then you received your reward right there. And the same goes for praying in a large sense, that you're supposed to close the door and pray and be heard by God. Yeah, so that's the reason for that. So the Orthodox service was good. I just left right away. They have an opportunity to meet other people, and I would have liked to stay, and I would stay on another time, but I just knew that it would not be good. Like, I do not feel in a relaxed state, essentially. So I just left, and then after that, I had an appointment with my doctor. I gotta say, I gotta give thanks to God because I have access to all of this stuff. Despite all the challenges, it's like I am praying to God for help, and then I find that there is help available, but I just have to keep trying, and it doesn't always work on the first try as well. But so I went and saw my doctor, and I already said he was trying to like push pills, but I was breaking down because I was sharing my what happened. I was saying it re-triggered my PTSD, but it was good because he listened. And another reason is that it was good is because I was not like sharing to a woman. Like, it's good to share to a man as well, not in a weird sense, but the fact is that sometimes women can be like way too much. They can talk too much. They can start talking. They can feel way too, I don't know what. And I was breaking down, but he was just like saying like, he was not like trying to make eye contact, and maybe that was his own personal reasons, but he was just kind of like listening as a training would have probably taught about, patients who are maybe emotional or have a breakdown or something. So it was nice that I could just like share to a man instead of a woman, because I do feel like it's different when you share something to men like than to women. You know what I mean? And then, so, yeah, he didn't really have any kind of like good advice to say, but the reason I had the appointment was actually just to give an update on the brainwave treatment, that it did help actually for anxiety for me. So I gave that update as well, and then I left. And then today I just met with a chiropractor, and my expectations were not like super high, but this chiropractor, he exceeded my expectations. He was very good. He took x-rays, he showed me the x-ray, he showed that I have a herniated disc in my, I think it's like L5 maybe, but it's between the sacrum, I think, sacrum, and the L5, and I think that's why somebody else said I had a flex sacrum, but it's basically like the disc is like too close, there's not enough proper spacing, and it's like pinching, I guess, and there's not enough. There's supposed to be like a space kind of like behind it where the nerves go out, and there's not enough room in that space for the nerves. And then also it's like the disc is like slightly overhanging, so it's like I guess misaligned. I don't know all the correct terminology, but he did show me and explained it, and you know, he did his tests and that, and he was actually pretty good because he asked about like the complex PTSD, because I put it on my my sheet, and then, you know, it was hard for me to say, but I just said, like, you know, it's got to do with family issues. And then I broke down a little bit. Like, I gotta say, it's so embarrassing. Like, I do not want to be like breaking down all the time. Like, this is something that I think every single man, probably most men, can understand, is that like no man wants to be crying all the time and breaking down all the time and feeling weak and feeling vulnerable. Like, literally no man wants to do that. And I understand that you have to do that in order to go through that, but it's really hard at the same time, okay? Because it's like an emotional thing, and that's difficult. And so anyways, I broke down a little bit because I was telling him, like, I was saying, he's I said, like, you know, I got my CPTSD got re-triggered from a family event, and I shared, like, you know, what happened, and I fell through the mud a little bit, and my mom was like shrieking right next to me. And then yeah, he was good. He said, like, it's okay, it's like a safe place, and if I need a minute, you know, just ask, and that's all good. And so he was actually really good. But the thing I really stood out to me, what he said was, he said, I can tell your nervous system feels heightened, or I can't remember what he said, but he says, I could tell your nervous system is like on edge. And it's like, thank you, you know, like, thanks for acknowledging, because I don't like having to do all the work for all these like therapists and doctors and everything and yada yada yada, because it's like most of the patients they're gonna see are gonna have nervous systems that are on edge. And so it's like, just to acknowledge it. But maybe he could tell that I understood that kind of language because I told him I was doing social work, so maybe he understood. But and then I told him, like, he asked about like supplements. I said, well, I have a ton and I watch like podcasts. So maybe he knew that I was kind of like knew the lingo. But anyways, so he said that he can help. He said it'll take a number of months, but that he can help with the issue I'm facing, and then all specifically like the lower back pain, and I think that will help as well with CPTSD also. So just because of what I've been saying about how a lot of pain is in the body, like trauma and so forth is in the body, so it would help as well to work on the body. But anyway, so thanks be to God. Thanks be to God. God is good. Yeah, so I'm going through like, I guess it's just a difficult time. I broke down. My nervous system was so jacked up after I left the chiro appointment, and I came home and then I broke down crying. Actually, I was like crying, like breaking down and crying on the way driving home, and I had to like pull over, and it's like so hard because it's like, yeah. Anyway, I've explained that why it's hard, but because I don't want people to see me. But I got home and then I was like screaming into my bed because I don't know, my nervous system, I just like had to let out that scream. And I also like, I scream into the bed because I don't want anyone to hear me. I don't even think the neighbors can hear me, but it's like a little bit of like just fear and paranoia about other people, and what they'll think, which I know is pretty silly, but it's, yeah, I don't know. It's tough, but yeah. So I always feel kind of guilty as well, about having emotions, and afraid to cry. Feel afraid to cry if someone will see me, and afraid to let out emotions because I think it might be too much for other people, and like I don't want to trigger them. You know what I mean? And then feel like I need to be responsible for helping them, but honestly, I feel like it is a lot for other people as well. Like, to be honest, when someone is experiencing emotions like specifically like crying and like, or a panic attack or anxiety or something like that, it kind of is a lot to deal with for whoever's trying to help that person. It can be. But I guess it could also possibly be a good thing, like afterward, once that person has calmed down and processed and feels better. But yeah, I would say that it's not too much for God because yeah, God is able to help, and yeah. So that's basically my whole story. But it's ongoing, or my whole story for what happened recently. But it's ongoing because I got mad at my mom and I said like, I don't think you should be here because the doctor told me. Because, I said that because the doctor was telling me like, I don't think she should be there, or is there anywhere you can go? And so anyways, I said that to her, and like, she said, no, there's nowhere I can go. And I said, okay, just go into your room and please and leave me alone, because I just could not deal with it. Because she tries telling me about like, she won her game. She's playing like a little game on her phone, like Tim Hortons hockey game, predicting hockey scores to earn points. And I said like, like, they're just trying to get you to continue to buy more stuff at Tim's. Like, that's what the point of that is. But it's fine that she likes it, I guess. But she brought that up, and I was like, yeah, I don't talk to me about that. Like, because I can't do it when something terrible happens and then no one will like acknowledge it, or like people won't do things like in a healthy way afterward. You know what I mean? Like, and suddenly everything's all la-di-da. Let's talk about the weather. Let's talk about happy. It's like, it's not that simple. My nervous system is fried. There's all these horrible things that happen, like, it has effects on people, like. So anyways, but I'll let her say what she wants to say. I mean, she's got to be here for like approximately 3 more weeks until she can go stay at my auntie's. But it's just really, really difficult. It's really difficult. So dealing with family issues, especially when it comes to your parents, and how it can just keep going on and on. It's so hard to deal with. But anyways, I'll let her say probably what she wants to say, and she has been kind of getting a bit better, I think, because at least she acknowledges that there's an issue. Like, she says, I can't help it about this scream. It's like, okay, well, at least she acknowledged it, you know what I mean? At least it's not just denial. So anyway, but it's a really hard situation. Okay, that's all.